bring in NBC News national affairs analyst John Heilemann, who has been reporting from South Carolina all this week in the lead up to the primary there. So Nikki Haley is not kicking sideways anymore, as I mentioned earlier, John. She's going directly at Trump, but is it breaking through?
Good morning, guys. I think she's not kicking sideways, Mika. That's right. And, yesterday she did a speech that her campaign called attention to. They said, we're going to do a big update on the state of the race. Quietly, they said she is not getting out of this race. Not only did she not get out of the race, but she made pretty clear to everybody, or as clear as she went further than she's ever gone before, in saying she's not going to get out after Saturday's primary here, where she's widely expected, if all the polls are correct, to get crushed. She's not just going to go on and stay in the race until Super Tuesday. She said yesterday she was going to stay in the race until all the votes had been cast. She's going to stay in the race all the way till the end. That was news. She also broke down a little bit and lost her. Let her emotions come through, talking about her husband, who's on his deployment. Toward the end of her speech, she had a moment where she got weepy, and yet I think it's fair to say, as former governor of the state, former popular governor of the state, who's all over the state. She's been barnstorming this state all week long. She's going to continue all the way through Friday night. Donald Trump is a spectral presence here. He flew in yesterday, did this town hall with Laura Ingraham, and flew right out again. And yet there's not a poll that doesn't have Donald Trump ahead of Nikki Haley by somewhere between 30 and 40 points. So the reality is, all you guys, I'm with you on everything you just said, everything all morning for the last half hour, all the things that Donald Trump represents. All of the rot at the core of the Republican Party. But Donald Trump is the Republican Party right now, and you can see it on display here in South Carolina in a way you didn't see it in New Hampshire, where you had an open primary. This is a pure Republican primary in a big red state, and Donald Trump is crushing Nikki Haley almost without any effort.
And the primary is on Saturday. As Mika said, Nikki Haley is no longer kicking sideways, to use a phrase she had been using for a long time. She's going right at Donald Trump. Here's some of her remarks in Greenville yesterday.
It's not normal to spend $50 million in campaign contributions on personal court cases. It's not normal to threaten people who back your opponent. And it's not normal to call on Russia to invade NATO countries. Donald Trump has done all of that and more in just the past month. He's gotten more unstable and unhinged. He spends more time in courtrooms than he does on the campaign trail. He refuses to debate. He's completely distracted, and everything is about him. He's so obsessed with his own demons from the past, he can't focus on delivering the future Americans deserve. I'm not afraid to say the hard truths out loud. I feel no need to kiss the ring. I have no fear of Trump's retribution. I'm not looking for anything from him. My own political future is of zero concern. I wish Michael was here today, and I wish our children and I could see him tonight, but we can't. He's serving on the other side of the world, where conflict is the norm, where terrorists hide among the innocent, where Iran's terrorist proxies are now attacking American troops. This is Michael's second deployment. It was hard for us to say goodbye to him the first time.
So, John, that's Governor Haley talking there about her husband, Michael, who serves in the South Carolina Army National Guard. Of course, Donald Trump has asked at some of his rallies, where's the husband? Where's the husband? Suggesting something, who knows what. We won't even go into that. But where is he? He's serving abroad, something Donald Trump couldn't contemplate doing. So the points that Governor Haley made at the beginning of those clips, everything she said about Donald Trump, everything she said about the state of the race are factually true. And in a sane political world, in a sane party, that would have some impact. But as you say, the margin is huge, even in her home state going into Saturday. So if Nikki Haley does, in fact, lose, John, what's the future here? We know she's going to campaign in Super Tuesday states coming up here. She's promised to stay in at least until then. What is the strategy from the Haley campaign?
Well, like I said a second ago, Willie, I mean, it was kind of striking. She really went further yesterday and said, I mean, seemed to suggest that she was going to stay in this race all the way until the very end. And I think there's something in that, in the sense that we know that candidates don't drop out because they're losing. They drop out because they've run out of money. That's the truism of presidential and all other politics. And I think Nikki Haley has discovered, so far at least, that there is a core of donors that wants to have her in this race, even if she gets beat. Now, who knows how long this will last? But so far, there's a core of donors who look at Donald Trump's future, that what's going to happen to him potentially in these court cases going forward, other possible things that might unfold in this very unpredictable climate, and say, hey, you know what? It'd be good to have Nikki Haley still in this race, still in fighting. And a lot of these states, she's not going to even win any delegates. They're winner-take-all states. So Trump is going to get himself to his magic number of delegates, probably, they think, by the second or third week of March. But she is now suggesting she wants to kind of stick around. And I think that part of the thinking is that something, it's not totally crazy, wishful thinking, that something could befall Donald Trump, particularly on the legal front, that might change the state of the race, that might create an opening for her. And I'll say one other thing is that, you know, we play the clips of Haley going head on against Donald Trump. She's amped up the directness and the fierceness of her critiques against him. But she hits Joe Biden just as hard as she does Donald Trump in these same speeches. She did that yesterday. And there is a part of her that seems to be saying, hey, she said this directly yesterday, 75% of the country doesn't want this race. And she made a case yesterday that if you were listening to it in the abstract, you would say, hey, this woman sounds like a third party candidate. This woman sounds like an independent candidate who's trying to get ready potentially to put herself in a position where she might be someone like No Labels might decide to look at down the line.
So, you know, I've definitely learned along the way, talking about politics, especially with you over the course of the decade, that you will take someone when they decide to come around, whenever they decide to come around. And Nikki Haley has come around. She's a good candidate. She's great on stage. And she's saying what needs to be said about Donald Trump. And every day she says a little more. And I hope she stays in this race. I hope she hangs in there no matter what happens in South Carolina. Republican voters need a viable option, an American candidate, not a Russian idiot. That's what they've got in Donald Trump. They need someone like Nikki Haley to hang in there, to give them an option that they could actually support, and a real race for the presidency, an American race.
Well, there are a lot of Main Street Republicans. There are a lot of Reagan Republicans. There are a lot of just good old fashioned small government, strong military Republicans that want an option. So why would Nikki Haley stay in the race? Jonathan Lemire,
Let's see.
There's a war of attrition. Keep going. You never know what's going to happen with Donald Trump as one case after another piles up against him. It's a war of attrition. And I would, if I were Nikki Haley, I would go to the convention. I would lose 30 contests in a row, but I would keep picking up whatever delegates I could pick up, and I would be the last woman standing, as she has said, and I would stay there to the end. Why? Because anything can happen, as we've said. Also, I must say, she's getting better.
Yeah.
She's not getting worse. She's getting better out there on the campaign
because
trail.
She's speaking authentically now.
And not just because she's going after Donald Trump, but that frees her up and gives her credibility to go after Joe Biden, to go after both parties. So that's critically important, too. And I've got to say, finally, after Donald Trump loses, whether it's in the primary or after he loses in the general election again, at that point, who is the last person standing? Who is the person that warned Republicans? You can do what you want to do, but if you pick that guy, you're going to lose. Suddenly you have a situation of where she's standing in the position of where Ronald Reagan was in 1976. After Gerald Ford lost to Jimmy Carter, he was the guy that was too crazy to win, too right-wing to win, too radical to win. And he put himself in position where everybody looked to him for 1980. And it
Yeah,
worked. Same thing with Nikki Haley. If Donald Trump is the nominee, he's going to lose again in the fall. Nikki Haley's already said it, and she's right. After that loss, Nikki Haley can say to Republicans, I warned you, but I'm here. And let's win in 28. So why the hell should she drop out of this race before the convention?